Hello everyone. Welcome to Job Club. Hello, looks like we're here on Facebook Live. Also, welcome all of our Facebook Live members. Hello. All righty. Hello, everyone. All righty. Okay, welcome everyone, all panelists and attendees. Let's see here, if you would toggle to the two icon from all panelists and attendees to ensure we can see your comments and questions during this webinar. All righty. Hello everyone. Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get started here. So we can, especially for those who have never been a part of Job Club, I just want to welcome you and let us know where you're from as you're logging in. Feel free to put the responses in the chat so that we can welcome you. Welcome everyone. Alrighty, so let's see here. Okay, hi Carol. Okay, from the Office of Vocational Rehab in Lexington. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Okay, we'll give a few more minutes here and we'll get started. All righty. Once again, welcome for any additional Facebook members who have joined us. I'm going to go ahead and just, okay, hi Leslie. Thank you from Kentucky Career Center of Bluegrass Campbellsville University campus in Harrisburg. Welcome. Definitely excited about you joining us today. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. Hello, Paula. All righty, good morning everyone. Okay, it's Chandra Howard from Goodwill Industries of Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. You guys just keep on chatting with us here and letting us know where you're from. Alrighty. Okay, so welcome to Central Kentucky Job Club. Let's see here. And we'll go on to the next slide here. Job Club, thank you. Job Club is currently hosted in Zoom webinar. Participants in the webinar can hear and see presenters. Attendees are not active on mics or cameras. If you choose to participate in the chat box, if you choose to participate in the chat box, your name will be public to the group. So I do want to mention that, even though I asked you, of course, to give your information. Okay, hello, Tanya. Looks like we're here from business coach with Kentucky Small Business Development Center. Thank you. All righty, thank you. Okay, and Joe from Georgetown. All righty, so let's see here. Let's go into our next slide. Let's see here. Welcome to those viewing on Facebook Live once again. If you would like to engage with the Job Club community and receive our Job Lead newsletter, register at www.ukalumni.net/jobclub. And we'll probably have to move back a couple of slides there so we can have that viewed for you guys. Oh, hello, Brian. Hi there. Brian from Lexington. Okay, thank you. All righty, give us a few seconds here. We're going to move back a couple of slides here. All righty. Okay, well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and just pass this on to Carolyn Francis from UK Alumni. She's going to give you guys a little more insight about Job Club and some of the other services that we provide here and what the agenda for today. All righty, so thank you, Caroline.
Good morning, everyone. We're delighted that you've joined us today for the Central Kentucky Job Club. We'd like to welcome especially our first timers. A few reminders about our agenda. We're going to go through our success stories, main speaker, we'll have sharing of job leads, then we'll have partner updates, and then we'll share what's on deck for our next Job Club meeting. Here's our team. Diana Doggett with Cooperative Extension. I'm Caroline Francis, Director of UK Alumni Career Services. I'm joined by my colleague Amanda Shagney, Associate Director of Alumni Career Services. Nicole Waite with she's an employment specialist with STEPS, UK's Temporary Employment Office. Behind the scenes, we have Ellie Goodman with the UK Alumni Association, Hannah Sims with the UK Alumni Association, and Suzanne Smith, who's helping us so much with our correspondence and our Facebook live stream. This is our team, and we're delighted to bring you Job Club today. The purpose, the mission of Job Club is to provide a positive environment for motivated job seekers to network, learn best practices, and a job search. We meet the second and the fourth Tuesday of each month, and you can find our schedule at the UK Alumni Association website link that is listed, and we'll also put that in the chat box for you. Our current schedule is tentative as we're continuing to adapt to COVID. We are in Zoom format for the foreseeable future. As soon as we can get back to meeting in person, we will be doing that with our meetings at the Extension office, but we'll most likely continue to also have a Zoom component as we move forward with future programming when we are back in person. Welcome to our first timers. If you're a first timer, feel free to mention that in the chat box now and say, I'm first time attending Job Club. First timers, you will receive a follow-up survey later today asking for some feedback that will also get you in our system so that you'll get a reminder before each Job Club meeting. And again, we're delighted to have first timers with us. Resources. We have put together a wonderful packet of resources that can be found on the link on the slide. It has so many good tools and tips and strategies in there that will help you with your job search. And that information will also be put in the chat box on where you can find access to the first timer packet with resources. Now for some success stories. Success stories can mean a variety of things. Use the chat box to share with us some success stories, some successes that you have had since our last Job Club meeting. It could have been that you had a telephone interview, or maybe you updated your resume or your LinkedIn profile. Please share with us. Also, when you land your next position, be sure to let us know. One of the highlights of our week is hearing from you, hearing success stories about landing your jobs. So definitely keep us posted. People are getting interviews. As the world is slowly starting to open back up, we are definitely seeing that with our clients, getting interviews. So share with us in the chat box. We'll take a minute here who's had some success or some wins to help you move forward in your search since our last Job Club meeting. Don't be shy here. Share in that chat box. We want to support you and be your cheerleader. Load up that chat box. Oh, awesome. Stephen, you have an interview tomorrow and you've updated your resume. Good luck. Keep us posted and remember to use that STAR strategy for behavioral interview questions. Great. We thank you for sharing that and can feel free to continue to add some success stories or wins that you've had in your search as we move forward with our program today. We have a brand new tool we're rolling out today. If you will take out your phone and take a photo of the QR code on your screen, the purpose of this is to help us as we're putting together our summer schedule. It is a one-question survey. We want your feedback on topics and speakers for future Job Club meetings. So take out your phone, or there's a link that we're going to be putting in the chat box that will do the same thing, that will take you to that one question survey and give us some ideas on what you would like to see in our summer job club schedule as we're starting to work on that now. So we love your ideas. We try to make programming very in line with what our audience wants and needs. So thank you for sharing your feedback by using this simple QR code that you take a photo of with your phone, or the link that's going to be in the chat box. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. We're delighted to have Dan Kahl with us with CEDIK. Dr. Kahl is an extension specialist in leadership development and community engagement in the Community and Leadership Development Department at the University of Kentucky. His work includes the development and oversight of programs that include the Business Retention and Expansion Program and community coaching resources and professional development. Comes highly recommended. Diana Dockett secured Dan today for us, first time presenter for Job Club. We're delighted to have him. Through his work with CEDIK, Dr. Kahl works with extension agents and directly with communities around the state to facilitate public engagement strategies. And I've seen his PowerPoint deck, awesome information that he's going to be presenting. And I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Kahl now to share. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm very pleased to be here, and that was a wonderful introduction. So I'm not sure. Yes, I do have the screen. We'll see if I can move this through. So what employers want is what I'm here to talk about today. And you see that this picture is pretty blurry, and that's because what employers want is also kind of blurry. It's like, what exactly do they want? I wanted to tell you that I have been through and seen surveys and documented lists of really the attributes that are kind of most highly sought after by employers. And employers and business analysts are continuously trying to assess and align both what employers are looking for in employees, but also it's helpful, I think, as an employee to have a good understanding of what kinds of skills and attributes employers are looking for. And so what we're going to do today is actually, I'm going to ask you to be patient. This is going to be a really frustrating presentation for the first part. And then in the end, you're going to say, oh, well, so that wasn't bad, I hope. And the reason I say that is because I'm going to walk with you through my process of kind of figuring out where do these come from? How do we know that this is what employers are really looking for? And so like all good, job seekers and folks looking for information, I went in to Google and I typed in, what are the most in-demand job skills for 2020? And I got about 600 million search responses. And so you can imagine, the benefits of the World Wide Web is that we've got all this information at our hands. And of course, the curse of the World Wide Web is that we've got too much information in our hands. And so we've got to find out, how do we start to navigate and walk our way through this? Now, Google does have some advanced search features, so you can sort it by language and by country and by date, and that helps. But it's still an amazing amount of information that we have to sort through. And of course, then the other challenge of this is that even the title of this presentation, What Employers Want, almost assumes that we know what employers want and that all the employers want the same thing, and they don't. Every career field is a little bit different. As I started to go through the different search engines and search resources, you start to realize that the surveys ask questions differently and they word their responses differently. So there's not an absolute definitive list, but what we can do is still kind of sort through and start to pull together these resources so that we can identify those primary skills kind of across the board of what employers are looking for. So with all that in mind, here we go. So I started the search and actually looked at, sorry, my little keys have disappeared down in the bottom. I may need help. There they are. Thank you if you did that. We looked at three different kind of categories. And the first was some original research. And by original research, I mean that at the University of Kentucky, through the Community and Economic Development Initiative of Kentucky, or CEDIK, we've been doing some work in Kentucky looking at what employers really are wanting out of their new hires. And it's a program or project that's based on a grant from the Walmart Foundation, and it's called Create Bridges. And so I'll share some of this original research of what we've learned when we've asked business owners in Kentucky about what they're looking for employees. The second area that I'd like to highlight is some publications, and there are two. One is from the Association of Public Land Grant Universities, and this is a survey where universities basically wanted to know how they're preparing students and how well that aligns with really what the employers are looking for in their hires. And so I'll share a little bit about that information, as well as a publication from the World Economic Forum. And I'm sorry that it's gray there, and it may not be as, I hope that you have access to these slides later and can look these resources up, because these are actually amazing resources with a wealth of information, not only about jobs, but also the types of jobs, the skills that are needed, where to get those skills. And the Future Jobs Report 2020 is a forecast. And so it's not just saying this is what it is now, it's looking ahead 5 years and looking at what are the trends in employment. So I'll share a little bit of that information, but that's a great resource. And the third area that we looked at was really where I started, and that was to say, what do some of these major employer search engines, what are they identifying as key attributes or skills that they want out of employees? And so we looked at Indeed and Monster and LinkedIn and Opportunity Job Network and Forbes, and you'll see the list. And this is where it gets a little bit overwhelming, is because you start to get all these lists of information from all these different organizations. But we'll go through that fairly quickly and then kind of land on what we can tell from all this information. So let's start with that original research. Community and Economic Development Initiative of Kentucky did an online, electronic, and paper surveys of business owners in Southeast Kentucky. And we were asking the question about preferred skills for workers that they were looking for. And it's not a big survey. You'll see there were only 47 responses, so less than 50, about 50. And the prioritized responses were, we want employees that can be to work on time. We want employees that are not trying to undercut one another, but that can work as a team, share some responsibilities, they can collaborate, they can cooperate, and they can get work done together. We want people that have skills in customer service so that they can problem solve, bond to the needs of the customer in a way that brings out, that can lead, sorry, I'm getting a message that my computer is lagging. I hope this is still working. Customer service, face-to-face communications, basic math, reading and writing, communication, both written as well as spoken. And again, that's very similar to the face-to-face communications and reading and writing, but those were some core skills, as well as being able to manage your time and spend your time appropriately, and spend your work time working on work things and not private things, as well as phone etiquette, appropriate dress, and cash handling. So it's a small survey, an interesting list. And what I found really interesting is that when we start to compare on a much larger scale, the list doesn't change a whole lot. So these small businesses in Kentucky are actually right on the mark. But let's keep going. And I'm sorry, because my little icon for arrows disappears. There it is, comes back. The second survey, and this is a document that we looked at from the APLU, or Association of Land Grant Universities, identified these 11 key areas. And these are, again, the employers that identified these are the top skills that we're wanting graduates from your universities to have. Okay. Now, a little bit bigger scope. This is across the United States, and it's 2,743. So many more employers surveyed, and they identified having an understanding of the role and structure of the workplace, dealing with conflict, being able to accept and apply critique, effective listening and communication, recognizing decision-making and the effect that those decisions have on others, as well as the organization, building professional relationships, navigating change and ambiguity, identifying and analyzing problems, transferring knowledge, and asking good questions. Again, I ask your patience because we're going to go into this pretty quickly here. The next one, and the lists start kind of growing and growing. But the next is really this published research from the World Economic Forum. And the reason I thought this was actually quite insightful is that this is over 26 countries and over 7.7 million employees that contributed to the survey responses here. And so we're going from micro to macro, from small to very large, but we're seeing across the globe that the skills, and this is the projection, growing in demand by 2025, are critical thinking and analysis, problem solving, self-management, working with others or teamwork. We've heard that before. Management and communication of activities. Communication is key. It continues to come up. Technology, use of computers, use of software and development, again, is kind of a common theme that we're hearing. Core literacies, in other words, self-management and these kind of core attributes of being able to be in charge of yourself and your emotions, and physical abilities. So as we continue, they've identified these 15. And again, I know this is starting to get a little overwhelming. And I'm not going to just read them off to you because we have more. But you'll start seeing emotional intelligence, service orientation, persuasion, negotiation, communication, leadership, critical thinking, problem solving, active learning. Again, it's a list that we start to see some kind of common responses as we go through. And I do hope, again, that you'll be able to keep this list and come back to this presentation and pause it and look at this more critically if you'd like to review some of these sources. I also wanted to share that one of the Future Jobs Survey of 2020 also looked at, and this is a little bit off task, but I thought it was important. How is the world responding to COVID-19? And you'll see here that almost 85% of the businesses said, well, because of COVID, we've had to accelerate the digitalization of work. In other words, we're doing what we're doing today. We're online, we're using Facebook, we're using webinars, and we're kind of connecting with one another virtually. And so the skill sets that contribute to that are in high demand across the board. The other element that came up was this opportunities to work remotely. And for me, when I hear that, I think that means that I've got to be self-directed. I have to be self-motivated. I have to have good time use or time management skills, because you're going to be on your own and responsible to get the work done on your own. And so there's a skill set that I think also goes with that set of kind of anticipated qualifications. But let's continue. Internet research. This is where 600 million responses can lose you forever. And so I'm going to go through these somewhat quickly, but I think what will help is that we're going to loop around and then kind of come around to say, what can we tell when we look at all of these different skill sets across the board? LinkedIn says, hey, we've got creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. And these are key. I will say linkedinlearning.com is a great resource then to find follow-up skill building resources to be able to enhance each of these areas. So, and I'll also get to that in a little bit. When we looked at Monster and Big Interview, you'll start seeing that these had some lists in common: communication, teamwork, interpersonal effectiveness, academic competence in reading and math, which was really interesting to me because it went right back to Eastern Kentucky. Learning skills, adaptability, strong work values, being motivated and at work on time. Indeed.com also, you'll start seeing very common communication skills, leadership, teamwork, computer skills, open-mindedness, a strong work ethic. We continue to Opportunity Job Network, and it's almost an identical list. And so even though we went broad to find and collect lots of information, we're starting to narrow it in and realize that there are some key aspects that we can focus on. One final list from Forbes.com. And again, what you'll see is some very common themes coming up that are ability to communicate effectively, ability to adapt to work issues, ability to make decisions and solve problems, work in a team, be self-motivated, have technical knowledge like computer skills. And so what did we learn? If we could synthesize all of these, and I haven't prioritized them as a 1, 2, 3, 4 list, partly again, because if you look at how people are reporting, they're asking questions differently, they're using a little bit different language, they're describing it differently. But if you can pull those kind of core themes out, you find that the ability to work together as a team is something that is incredibly important. Even though we're virtual and working what feels like very isolated and alone, we still have to work together. And so those skills are primary. Communication, both listening and persuasive speaking, negotiation. It came up again and again and again on those lists. How do we problem solve and think critically about the implications of what happens when we make these decisions within our work? And how do we build those job skills? The next is a lot of the self-management skills, whether you're working in isolation virtually or together. How do you have that emotional intelligence where you can make certain that you're not being reactive or taking things out of context, but that you kind of have your own self-regulation and stabilization aspects so that you can kind of maintain your calmness and integrity as you're starting to think about and respond to, but not react to others. Computer and technical skills comes up again and again. Leadership and management, which is something that we teach at the University of Kentucky. Active learning and adaptability. So let's walk through this really quickly and say, how do we prepare these things? These are great concepts, but now what do we do? There are resources actually for each of these. And so if you've got a sense that you want to increase your collaboration or teamwork, you might look at a book that says collaborative leadership, for example. How do we build our skills to cooperate, share power, share resources with one another, share responsibilities, create trust, engender trust from others, as well as how do I learn to trust others so that we can work as a team and achieve a common goal. Communication, active listening, negotiation, persuasion. There are actually tools. I love, this is an oldie but a goodie. It's called Getting to Yes. It's by Roger Fisher and William Ury, and it's hundreds of years old. I'm exaggerating, but it's an old book. But boy, when you read through it, it's timeless. So how do you build those communication skills? Next, we've got self-management, right? Emotional intelligence. That seems like a vague concept, but there actually are, oops, I went out. This is back to influencing for persuasion, another tool. And you don't have to remember all these books either. I'm just saying there are resources out there that help us kind of focus on these elements and build those capacities. Emotional intelligence and successful intelligence. There are many different tools and resources that help us with that social perceptiveness, self-understanding, managing ourselves. computer and technical skills. Of course, there's lots of resources out there. Learning strategies to be adaptive. How do you do that? It seems like that would be a difficult one to build, but you actually can. There's stuff like this. So crisis leadership, how do you think creatively? Are there processes to be able to brainstorm and then analyze what are going to be the best responses and what are the trade-offs? What am I risking? There's a book called Risk Leadership. There are kind of collective decision-making and individual decision-making in terms of how do you analyze the repercussions of what those decisions might be. And those are the skills that help you to be an active learner, adaptable, responsive, critical thinking, problem solving, leadership management. Again, Leaderful Field Book by Joseph Raylan is a great example of working with others as a team to be able to engage others, share responsibilities, facilitate change, motivate others, think about your systems, think about how things within that system context can be important. So the skills that were raised in each of those lists do have competencies that you can focus on to help really start to align those resources. And so the reason I think that it's important to ask that question, what do employers want, is that once we get a general sense of those kind of skill sets or assets that employers are looking for in a good employee, we can self-assess and self-improve. Gallup organization has the Clifton Strengths Finder. That is an exceptional tool to understand where am I really strong and what are some areas that I might build upon to be better at this. The second, of course, is to know what to emphasize in your application and, Stephen, in your interview tomorrow, right? Yeah, oh, I'm a great team player. I find that one of my skills is being adaptable to change and creative problem solving. You can have this list written on your hand as you interview. It's helpful. It's helpful to know what are employers looking for and how do I line up to that list. And it gives you really a better perspective of what are the employer's priorities and needs so that you can think about how to present yourself. And I wouldn't say to misrepresent yourself, but to understand where your strengths align with what employers are looking for. So where do you get resources? We are currently, through CEDIK at the university, working on developing, through this Create Bridges project, a set of resources that will help develop those soft skills and skills for really around many of these kind of common themes. There are some resources out there available at this website address, and then there are some others that we'll be adding to that, as well as our department is also aligning and posting resources for community and leadership development. So the University of Kentucky is a resource, but there are, of course, many others. As you go on to some of these search engines, and I wouldn't just tie yourself to one, you can look at Indeed.com. They've got some really great resume building resources. You can look at LinkedIn Learning that has some really good resources, both for reading, for self-assessment, some tools. BigInterview.com has interviewing assistance. And if you go back through and connect to that, it starts to help you put yourself in a mindset of how do I understand the question or the questions that they're really trying to get to, and how do I help answer that clearly as I'm going through the interview process. And this other one, the Raising Work-Ready Children, is a very odd one. It's in the list. If you're looking for yourself, this isn't the one to do. But what I found really kind of fascinating about this is that it's how do you raise your kids so that they are work ready. It's practicing employment skills at home, and if you have children and you want them to start thinking about what skills do they need to develop to be more work ready, more marketable in the field, they have some really creative, interesting at-home kinds of things that you can do. So, so with that, I will respond to questions. I know we've gone on a big journey collected a lot of information, but I hope that in the end, we were able to summarize it and then kind of tease apart, what do you do with that information? But I'm happy to answer any questions. Caroline, are you there? You're muted.
Thank you very much, Dan. My mind is spinning with all the ways that we can take what you've shared with us and find ways to get some additional training or improve our skills, or even just market our skills better on our resumes and our LinkedIn profiles, interview example stories. Now that we know what employers want, then the burden falls on us, the job seeker, to make sure we let the employer know we have some experience and training in that area. I'm going to turn it over to Nicole to monitor any questions that might be coming in. We do have some time, so I would love it if our audience could ask questions. We are fortunate enough to have Dr. Kahl with us this morning and his area of expertise and research. So he's a great resource for us on learning more about what employers want. So let's flood that chat box with some questions over the next couple of minutes. While those are coming in, Dan, if you have any tips based on what you've learned from talking with employers and doing your research, what advice would you give our audience today?
Advice. Honestly, it's singing to the choir, right? Or preaching to the choir. And I say that because the folks that are online today are willing to pay attention to, how do I self-improve? How do I leverage or manage or gain more information so that I can be a better candidate or a better employee, or find additional work, or whatever those kind of aspirations might be. Stephen Covey wrote some leadership materials. And he used to call it sharpening the saw. And in essence, it was his metaphor about cutting down trees and realizing that you had to stop and keep the blades sharpened, or else you kind of just worked yourself into a grind and couldn't get the work done. Sharpening the saw is maintaining those professional connections, expertise, being knowledgeable, being aware, and practicing those skills. I think, well, much like when we look at the research and you see that people call things different, and you realize that different employers are seeking different needs based on their field, there is that general set of kind of common skills that we can build. And what's challenging, I think, often is that they're vague. I have people coming to me and they say, so leadership, right? What is leadership? We have community leadership programs, and they say, well, we teach leadership. And I said, well, that's awesome. What do you teach? Leadership. That's like, well, that's a vague term that's used in a lot of different contexts, kind of like communication. It's very vague. But once you can start to tease out some of those specific elements, you can start to work on those, and they all do combine to help you be more effective in leadership, more effective in management, more effective in your communication. So I just applaud the group that's here and tuned in, paying attention and investing in themselves. This is good.
All right, sorry about that. My microphone was on mute, Dan, so I'm sorry about that. I apologize. Okay, so we do have some questions, okay? Let's see here, and let's go to the first question here. Let's see here. The question is, I have an MPP, and I'm actually interested in community and economic development. Aside from the skills you went through, what other skills do employers in that field want?
Wow, that is a great question. Yeah, so I will say, I am not in economic development. I'm in CEDIK, which is community and economic development. And I have my economic development colleagues that are much more skilled and knowledgeable in that area than I am. And I say that because most communities, when they're looking at community and economic development, are really looking at economic development. And so there's this aspect of helping them think more broadly about how does the development of the broader community also support and engage with economic development. There are many models out there that are looking at healthy, sustainable communities that include things like engagement in of the public in projects and activities and leadership and decision making. How do you help people have a voice and take investment as opposed to just take pot shots at the leaders? And so, yeah, that is a difficult question. There are a number of kind of skills that help to undergird that. I don't know if I have a great answer.
Okay, all right. So we may be able to get a little more from the second question. It kind of
But
ties
contact me.
into
Yeah, I can help.
Okay, it says, what training courses on LinkedIn are the best ones for building skills that employers want?
Yeah, I would go back to that list. So again, that's a big question. If you felt like, as you look through that list, there was one or two that struck a nerve or made you nervous, that's an area that you can focus on, right? If you're like, ooh, collaboration, no, that's one that bothers me, or I'm not exactly clear on it, or I'm kind of scared of that one, then go there. And because it seems like that's yourself telling yourself that is an area that I could strengthen my knowledge in, my abilities of being able to work with others. And so I'd say go through that LinkedIn list, find areas that you really want to work on, and then just follow that path.
Alrighty, so okay, next question. Were the key skills important within COVID-19 changing workforce too? Okay, hold on. Let me read that again.
Yeah.
Were these key skills important within the COVID-19 changing workforce too? If not, what can we work on in this adaptive workforce?
I'm not exactly clear on that question.
On that question, let me read that one again slowly. Okay. Were these key skills important within the COVID-19 changing workforce also? And if not, if the skills were not, what can we work on in this adaptive workforce?
So I will say, that's why I went to 2020, and all the information that I've shared has been generated within the last year. Just the way that information collection happens, it doesn't mean that it's all generated in the last year. It means typically that by the time they compile it, get it together, report out, it depends on the organization that's responding. But it's as recent of information as you can get. Now, the question is, how has COVID thrown a wrench in all that? And that a lot of this information that's been collected through 2020 may address that, and some of it may have been generated just prior to lockdown. So time will tell. But I mean, so that is a difficult question to answer. I would say though that it exaggerates the need for those skills. What I find is that COVID and working remotely, for example, allows people the latitude to just kind of slip back and become obscure. But I need team building. I need people motivated. I need people online. And it's even harder when we're not face to face, when I can't see them. And so in some ways, I would say, as you go down through that list, COVID actually just kind of amps up the need so that you can communicate effectively, you can motivate others, you can engage them and move them forward, even in spite of the challenges that COVID has created.
All right, great. Thanks for that feedback. Okay, our next question here. Of course, with all the information that was given, if you could maybe, or in your opinion, what are the top 3 steps that you would recommend for someone looking for a job? Take a self-assessment, etc. What is your opinion?
So here's also a challenge in that skill building for yourself typically takes time. I mean, for us to be able to work into a habit so that these become natural ways that we communicate, that we reach out to others, that we've got kind of a way of working that's collaborative, or that we can problem solve, you have to develop that over time. And so the challenge is that if you're like looking for a job now, and I want to develop all these skills now so that I have them next week when I interview, that's a problem. So really, just my opinion is that this is an ongoing, consistent, recurring way of being able to think about what do we need to work on, and really start working on that self-improvement. And in the long run, I think that you become a person that has your emotional intelligence. You have a network of folks that you've worked with. They recognize your abilities and capacities. You have the skill sets that will advance you forward. But it's a tough question to say, hey, if I've got an interview next week, what do I work on first? They are important. And again, if you go back through and look at these lists, you might be able to self-prioritize which ones you think you can really strengthen.
All righty, thank you. All righty, so next question here, and that is, do you have any favorite book or articles on customer service skills that you've recently published, or sorry, that have been recently published?
As a book or article on what was the key focus?
Customer service skills.
Customer service skills.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. We've been developing this content, and I'm not sure if I do have a customer service skills. That's a kind of a specific question. I'll have to think about that one. If you'd like, you can certainly email me. I hope my information is on there. I'll give that some thought, but no, not that comes quickly to mind.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, we'll definitely be able to share that info so we can get that question answered. Okay, alrighty. So let's see here. Next question here. Let's see here. What if you are deficient in a skill, say emotional intelligence, and are not likely to improve anytime soon? How to
I love that. That's exactly it, right?
open and honest, yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime soon. How to represent yourself in an interview?
Um, Here's the other thing that's interesting about emotional intelligence is that sometimes we become our own worst enemies. We can beat up ourselves and say, oh, I am just, I'm an emotional wreck. And that's what we continue to tell ourselves, and we get stuck in these holes. I wouldn't beat up on yourself. I also wouldn't go in and say, I am the most emotionally advanced person you're ever going to meet, because that might be stretching it a bit. But in terms of emotional intelligence right now, we're really all going through kind of a mess. And if we're able to keep it together and be empathetic to others and reach out and understand different perspectives and respond to those, then I would say don't think of it as a weakness. Think of it as you are who you are, and that might be an area that you want to improve on. But I wouldn't raise it in an interview and say, well, that's my, although I know in a lot of interviews, they'll say, what's your biggest weakness? And in that case, you could say, an area I'd really like to work on is self-management in terms of being my emotional intelligence, my ability to, well, yeah, that's a tough one. Start waving that flag, people are like, oh, so you're not, do you have anger issues? Yeah, I would just say, don't beat yourself up too much.
All right, thank you again. It's been really great. And I do, of course, want to share some of the comments, and I'll get into our last question here. Great session. Filled with lots of information about skills. So yeah, I definitely want to share those also before going into this last question, which is, are older workers with skills and education more hireable?
Are older workers with more skills and education more hireable?
Mm-hmm.
That's again, where are you applying? I think it can work to your advantage in some positions. I think also there's an employer mindset for some positions that we want somebody that's young and highly technically skilled and kind of a blank slate, or at least moldable, and we can teach them, right? I have had many employers say it's actually even not so much about those skills, but that we want somebody that has a good learning attitude, that's adaptable, and that, you know, we can teach them the specific job skills that they need, but we want good attitude. We want people that have the ability to work well with others, that are quick on their feet, that are willing to learn. And so, yeah, it's a tough challenge. And I think that experience can serve you in some positions, and in others, you just have to be willing to learn.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. You answered those very well. Yeah, and then of course I do want to let you know, Dan, that we did share your information in the chat here, so that sorry,
Thank you.
for LinkedIn. So if there are any additional questions, let's see here. Okay, so we have, thank you so much for all the great information. Thank you. You get lots of gratitude here. So I believe this is a very successful, I know this was a very successful session. We really appreciate you joining us today. Dan, thanks for the great information. So thank you, Dan. So
Well,
it's coming in. It's really coming in.
thank you guys. No, there is a lot of good information. So I do hope you can go back through, if you have access to the PowerPoint, and look at some of those resources, because that is where you start to really dig in and find some good stuff.
Alrighty. Okay, thank you. So gratitude just continues to come in. So of course, we can thank you, Dan. Very helpful. So, do you have anything else before closing, Dan, that you would like to share?
I don't, other than to say, yeah, check in. The University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension continues to adapt and design programs. So I will say this quickly. Your Cooperative Extension Office, typically they don't just develop a program and throw it out there. Typically they do it in response to the needs or wants or priorities of the audience, of the people that we're serving. And so leadership development programs can be crafted to respond to the needs and interests that you've got. And so I would work with your extension office and with us, and I mean, we work closely with extension offices, but we can align and design programs that can help you. So.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dan, for joining us today. And so, okay, we'll just go ahead here and move on to the next portion of our slide. Let's see here. Okay, who's hiring? So attendees at this time, you can share job leads and job targets via the webinar chat box. So all of the attendees can see here. Employers with active job leads, click the raise hand function now, and we'll go ahead and let you share some of those job leads. You may also email us the job leads by noon today at ukalumnicareer@uky.edu. Sorry, at ukalumnicareer@uky.edu, and we'll include them in our post-meeting lead list, job lead list. So feel free to go ahead and raise your hand if you have anything you'd like to share. I'll give you a few moments here. Okay, I see here. Okay, looking for a tax compliance supervisor at East Kentucky Power. Okay, cooperative. Okay. All right, so we have one there. Feel free to share anything else in the chat if there be anyone else. Anyone else here? And of course, as mentioned, you may email those to our UK Alumni Careers Services. Okay, all righty. So we'll just go ahead and move on here. Let's see here. Good news. Let's see here. Let's see here. Good news. Do we have any updates on, let's see here, any other interviews or job leads? any offers, anything like that that anyone would like to share, feel free to put that in the chat box here. Feel free to do that, and I'll go ahead and talk with you guys a little more about, please continue if you want to put anything in the chat box to share with us. And I'm just going to briefly speak with you about updates from UK STEPS, our temporary employment office in employment here at the University of Kentucky, where I work as an employment specialist. We have many vacant positions available on both the campus and healthcare side. And not even just locally here in Lexington. So I encourage you, there are so many that I couldn't possibly share them all today. So I encourage you, we'll put the link in the box here. I encourage you to visit our website. You may narrow down your search. There's a search engine there so that you may narrow it down. We do have administrative positions available, direct patient care, staff support, let's see here, IT specialist, just to name a few, there are a few positions in engineering. And the list goes on. This seems to be a very, very busy time of year as we kind of get towards spring. There are also externships and internships. I know we've had meetings before about those. Research positions. There are so many. This is, as I mentioned, a very busy time of year for us. So feel free to visit our webpage, go in that search engine, narrow it down, and see what you guys can find. I can't wait to hear from you, hear about some success stories about applying for these temporary positions. And also, do not want to fail to mention that STEPS is a great place to get started with the University of Kentucky. If you're interested in employment with the University of Kentucky, it's a great platform to build some skills. You're actually building real skills using our systems, things like that, So yeah, feel free to go ahead and definitely search for some positions there. I can't wait to hear about it. All righty. Okay, so let's see here. I'll go ahead and pass that on to Caroline.
Again, thank you so much for joining us today. We want to make sure that you keep an eye on our partner, Fayette Cooperative Extension. They have some wonderful virtual programs that are going on. Take a look at their website for their schedule for virtual programs. Also, Alumni Career Services continues to offer several virtual free programs that are open. We have a career management webinar coming up on March the 17th during lunchtime on why flexibility is critical in the 2021 workplace. So continuing on today's theme of what employers want, we hope you'll register and join us for that. We also have a leadership week coming up in April with a full week lineup of several webinars on leadership related topics, which ties beautifully into what Dr. Kahl told us employers want. Those are free. You just need to pre-register. So that's all coming up in April. On deck for March 23rd, very excited to be bringing you a panel. The topic is thinking of a career in nonprofit. Many clients have had years in the corporate world and are looking to transition to the nonprofit world. If that sounds like you, we have an awesome panel of people that have spent their career in the nonprofit world and have great advice that they're going to share with us on how to potentially shift to that industry, that field. That's coming up on March 23rd. So we hope that you'll join us again on March 23rd. You do need to pre-register for that. And we're delighted when you can join us for Job Club next one, Tuesday, March 23rd. On behalf of our facilitation team, thank you for joining us today. Keep us posted on your job search. Things are looking up as the world is opening back up, and you've certainly learned some great strategies today on some short-term, quick trainings that you can take. These will all look good on future resumes, LinkedIn, and potentially a response to a future interview question. So thanks, everyone. You have a great day and good luck in your search.